Laws and regulations dictate requirements for healthcare, but at their core, I believe, are culturally embedded values of respect of person and the right for the person to choose their own destiny. A President's Commission report noted that adults are entitled to accept or reject healthcare interventions on the basis of their own personal values and a furtherance of their own personal goals. With this thought in mind, why would any institution want to strike down a law that helps millions of Americans to furtherance their own health goals, that assist in providing them with medical coverage, many for the first time of their lives? Hello everyone, my name is William Brown. I'm a graduate student in the Master of Healthcare Administration program. My topic is California versus Texas, a case considered as determining the fate of the Affordable Care Act, or the Affordable Care Act, more popularly known as Obamacare or the ACA. Lawmakers have raised over 60 challenges to the law. Constitutional challenges that have fought against implementation, fought for repeal, that have fought for defunding, and have provided a variety of amendments. In fact, in October of 2013, there was a partial shutdown of the government over disagreements in including the bill in the fiscal year 2014 spending budget. Signed into law in 2010 by President Obama, this law was designed to provide affordable health care coverage for all Americans. It also was to put a halt to many of the negative practices by insurance companies that drove up medical costs and restricted medical care. Many millions of Americans benefiting from the law are unemployed or working for low wages. The law did away with denial of coverage due to pre-existing medical conditions. In 2017, Congress passed a tax reform that reduced the individual mandate to $0. The ACA required Americans to get health care insurance or pay a penalty. The penalty and the health care insurance was called the individual mandate. Congress repealed this requirement starting in December 2019. Texas and several supporting states and supporting individuals, the plaintiffs, filed a lawsuit in the 5th District Court of Appeals that the individual mandate is unconstitutional, and that with that the ACA is also unconstitutional. California and several states, the defendants, joined the lawsuit in defense of the mandate. Texas' argument is that since the individual mandate has been declared unconstitutional, and since the individual mandate cannot be severed from the ACA, the entire law should be unconstitutional. A district court disagreed with the decision to overturn the entire ACA, and its decision was challenged by plaintiffs in the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fifth Circuit. This court agreed with the plaintiffs that the ACA should fall with the individual mandate. The Fifth Circuit remanded the case back to the district court for further review. The plaintiffs sought review by the Supreme Court. At issue was whether the individual mandate, can be separated from the ACA, or should the entire law be repealed. The Supreme Court decided that if the entire ACA is invalidated, that would result in far-reaching consequences for insurance markets, public health programs, and many other programs. The Supreme Court decided to let Congress enact legislation to guide any further analysis in this matter. Congress decided that there was 3 ways to handle this. One way was to restore the ACA back to where it was, the original law. The second one was for Congress to enact legislation that separated the individual mandate from the ACA. And the third proposition was for the legislation to enact legislation that would cancel the ACA altogether. The three options are visualized on this particular slide: to reinstate the penalty, enact legislation to separate individual mandate, and to repeal the entire law. So the question is, why does this matter? Well, the ACA is very important. The Affordable Care Act has been important for decreasing the rate of uninsured Americans since 2013, for decreasing financial barriers that were barriers to access to health care, especially for blacks and Hispanics. It's important for blacks living in Medicare and Medicaid expansion states who are more likely to be insured, which means that drives up insurance, drives up health care coverage for millions of black people and Hispanics who may not have had it. And for black and Hispanics, it's increasing usual source of care, which means that they have the ability to go to a regular spot for regular care on a regular basis. Without the Affordable Care Act, racial and ethnic minorities are much more likely to be uninsured compared to whites. Asian Americans and Native Hawaiians and Pacific Islanders, who account for 50% of all hepatitis B cases in the United States, that is important because they most likely wouldn't be able to get care. And 44% of African Americans who delay or forego routine and preventive care. There's also problems that could be more relevant to Indians, far as them suffering alcoholism, more contact with tuberculosis, likely to suffer from more diabetes, and likely to have more cases of pneumonia and influenza. Hispanics have the highest uninsured rate of any racial or ethnic group in the United States. They are nearly 3 times as likely as non-Hispanic whites to be uninsured. The cancellation of the ACA could possibly cause negative effects in all these groups. I have not said much about parties or what party did this and what party did not do that. I haven't thought of it in those terms, but realistically, the Republican Congress is still waging war on Obamacare. And during the and before the Trump era, Republicans were in lockstep on repealing, replacing, and ending Obamacare. During the Trump era, it seemed like it was even more so. But I believe that it wasn't that it was more so, it just was more pronounced. It was more in our face. This would be real injustice to the millions of people who benefit from the many benefits that the ACA has provided. This does not mean that there are no negative or no contrary consequences to Obamacare. 2 of them being that it raises premiums, and well, I think that's probably the major one. But unfortunately, in this country, we're stuck with people who see Obamacare entirely as a threat to individual freedom, and those who realize versus those who realize the good it does. But the threat to individual freedom basically is encompassed in the idea that you should be able to choose your own medical insurance, and that's up to the individual to provide medical insurance for himself, etc., and so on. If that was working, then we wouldn't be having the healthcare problems in this country that we have been having.